Were you flashing gang signs? What was that?
Yes, I was. I was watching gang signs.
Yeah, is that your
Bees.
Wu-Tang?
Rich, you got Rich.
Can't
Rich,
do
you
it.
got to.
I can't.
Rich, you got it. You're gonna have to kick us off here, bud, because this is while Brooks and Bob are doing gang signs, you're gonna have to kick us off and what we're gonna talk about here, because I'm excited. I actually have a run sheet for this one for myself.
Wow, I never prepare for these things, but since we started off with gang signs, if we're going to introduce the topic, we might as well go with Leprechaun to the Hood and go to B.
Yes.
And Back to the Hood. You went
Yeah, there were two of them.
Yeah,
There
there
were
were two of them, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I
Oh,
used to
crap.
have them on VHS.
Oh, those Leprechaun movies were fantastic.
This is where if we
Where
had a
where they
soundboard,
go?
we would do Not the Bees. Wicker Man. Not the bees. Not the bees.
B horror movies. It's gonna be fun. I think this is one of those areas where we all have quite a bit of experience over the years of being exposed, watching, loving, seeking out, maybe not liking so much of this topic. And look, we're going to talk about some movies that might be considered horror adjacent, or just maybe touches of horror, not just straight all B horror. It is what it is. But I'm excited about this one, and I say we just go. I know, and I've got a list of about 10. I don't know about you guys, but I figure we just go, talk, discuss, have fun with these, and see what happens.
Yeah, I had a list, and then I cleaned up my desk, and I lost it.
You got it in your head?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I like
Close
it.
enough.
I like it. Well, and it's cool. Like we've done so many of these over the years where someone mentions something, and then it immediately sparks a memory of, oh wait, I remember seeing that 20 years ago. So yeah, I think this has some fun. Rich, you got to kick us off though, other than Leprechaun, unless you want to keep going down Leprechaun way. Whatever.
Well, I do like the Leprechaun movies, but I'm trying to think if I could think what my first B movie that I know I saw that I knew was a B movie. I remember as a kid in the early 90s renting Army of Darkness, not knowing anything about it, going into it and watching it and going, this is the best thing I've ever seen, and it's horrible. The acting is horrible. The special effects are horrible, but this is great. I love it. And that may have started I think I'm sure before that I watched, whatever was on late at night on UHF television.
PHL 17.
Yeah, PHL 57 used to have
Billy
some of that
57.
stuff.
Yeah. Really
And then if you
57,
really
I-
dove deep, Channel 48 every once in a while would throw some
What was that? WG.
WGTW Channel 48 out of.
Now, when we were kids, we were also introduced to this stuff via cartoons that probably shouldn't have been. I think we had other topics about this before, but we had the Toxic Crusaders cartoon, which came from Troma, which is like the greatest B movie company of all time, straight out of New Jersey.
Right, bitches.
And the Nightmare on Elm Street TV series with Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on My Street by the Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff, like all these kid-friendly R-rated B movies.
Oh, we had Attack of the Killer Tomatoes on Saturday morning on Fox Kids.
Yep,
That's
and
right. Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Oh yeah, Tales from the
Yep.
Crypt Keeper too.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you want to start with that, Attack from the Killer Tomatoes. I didn't see the first one. For the cartoon was how I was introduced to it, and then we went to somebody's house for a birthday party. I think it was the McStays, the neighbors, and they rented Return of the Killer Tomatoes, not knowing what it was, and that was another. That one, it starts out. I don't think there's any nudity in it at all, but it starts out with like a shower scene from the fuzzy tomato turns into the girl when she gets wet with water. So that's one of the big things. But that also had John Astin, who's great and has been in a pile of everything. Gomez Adams.
Gomez Adams, yeah.
That cowboy thing with with the guy from The Evil Dead. So I shouldn't drink with this. Bruce Campbell,
Briscoe.
Briscoe
and
County
Shonuff.
Jr.
Shonuff and
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell were in it. And
Yeah,
I can't
Briscoe County Jr.
Thank you. Yeah. He was in that too. But Attack from the Killer Tomatoes, The Return from the Killer Tomatoes, had a very young.
George Clooney.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly where I was going. And it's just great.
I got you, bud. I got you.
The first one was horrible. The second one was a masterpiece. The first one was a very low budget, very, very low budget B movie. It's semi-entertaining, almost like the Evil Dead movies. I'm rambling now. I'm rambling because I'm drunk and I'm tired. But the Evil Dead, the first one was very cheaply made, but it was a success. So they took the money and made Evil Dead 2. Same thing with the Killer Tomatoes. The first one was made really cheaply, but it made some money. So they were able to go ahead and push the money into the second one, and it made it much better because of it. And then I don't know why it got a cartoon series, because it really shouldn't have had a cartoon series. Don Aston was in the cartoon series.
Yeah, he was Dr. Gangrene.
I feel like the evolution of the Evil Dead series was not just the money, it was more like they tried to make a horror movie in Evil Dead 1, and it was really funny. And then by Evil Dead 2, they're like, okay, let's embrace this, comedic part of it. And then by Army of Darkness, they had it down pat.
Yeah, I agree with that. Still one of the greatest series of movies of all time.
For sure.
Yeah, and Rich, I agree with your initial thing, like, hey, grabbing Army of Darkness, and I remember same kind of deal, probably age 11, 12, getting exposed to that, and that was my first, jump into the Evil Dead franchise, and I purposely left that off of my list because I know that I'm surrounded by three huge Evil Dead fans, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to separate myself if we're even talking about it, because it's going to get plenty of airtime here, which it rightfully should. If you want to talk B horror, it's Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. But I don't know, Brooks, Bob, do you guys want to jump in on something other than Evil Dead, Army of Darkness?
Go ahead, Bobby. What you got?
So we'll get this one out of the way because it's going to come up. Tom, I know you and I watched it. I don't know if Rich or Brooks has seen this one, but there was a movie that I found at Blockbuster in Glassboro, and I had to buy it because I looked at the cover and read the title and was like, yeah, this needs to come with me. And it was called Monster. And it's basically a dude he's a killer, and he's on death row, and he's about to get electrocuted, and somehow he escapes, and as he's escaping he falls into a toxic pile of shit, into a sewer, and he gets, basically every Spider-Man villain origin story except for throw shit in, and and he ends up turning into a shit monster, and he can go through the toilets and through the sewer system. And it has one of the single greatest lines of all time when the sheriff is in the diner and he tells the waitress he's going to glaze her like a donut.
But dude, what's funny? I have that on my list too. And it's funny because I was trying to write little synopses for the different ones I have on my list. And literally the only thing I wrote was, it's a movie about a poop monster.
Yeah, it's horrible. The dude looks like he's made out of the monster looks like it's made out of the expanding foam painted brown. It's just really, really bad. They were definitely going for, no pun intended, a shitty movie. They knew that that's what they were making, and so they just they steered into it hard.
I wanted that one, Bob. With the monster. I thinking about that, putting it on my list. I'm like, does that even qualify as being as high regarded as a B horror?
Oh no,
is there another classification like C, D?
Is there a D horror?
Yeah, it's definitely a D horror movie. There was no intention, I think, to make it any kind of quality. It was just for shits and giggles. Pun fully intended.
I almost said, "Oh shit." All right, Brooks. What about you, man? What you got?
All right. Well, I got a couple. For the first one, I'll stick with the sewer theme. I got Chud, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dweller, which I think Bobby and I talked about before. And I rewatched it, right, just to prep for this because I haven't seen it in years. I remember watching it with my pops, when I wasn't supposed to. My mom was away for training or something, and he was like, "Hey, watch this movie," and I was like, "Jesus Christ, what happened to that person's face?" But so there were a couple people in there that I recognized, and one of the primary ones was John Hurt is in it. He's a police inspector or investigator, and his wife is like one of the people that disappeared into the she just disappeared. She's a missing person, right? And for those of you that haven't seen it, the whole movie, I won't ruin it for you if you try to go out and see it. But there are homeless people that live in the sewer system and whatnot underground in New York City, and they start disappearing. And then people above ground start disappearing. And they are cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers that live in the sewers. And I won't ruin where they come from, but that's the gist of the movie. A couple other people I saw were Daniel Stern's in it. So the guy from Home Alone, Marv. He's in it. He plays like a soup kitchen preacher guy, and he notices some of the people that usually show up to a soup kitchen are not showing up anymore. So he's trying to raise alarm bells with the police, and nobody's listening to him because he, just runs a soup kitchen. And then for a very short stint, there is a slaughter in a diner that happens, and John Goodman is one of the cops that gets slaughtered in the diner. So I saw him for about 15 seconds in that movie too. But it was pretty. I mean, it was good. It's so good it was bad, right?
That's what. That's I'm glad you said that because you're bringing up the fact that you've got some pretty name actors. John Goodman, Daniel Stern, and so forth. And that's the fun thing about the B horror, genre is that you did have at times pretty well-known people that would show up in these movies, whether they were just, maybe, off, a few years from their stardom that had dropped off, or the other side of it, like they hadn't quite got there yet. So it's a cool thing. I'm going to go, I kind of did mine chronologically, so I'll talk about mine that way. I'll just throw a couple up top, but I was exposed to the B horror stuff when I was younger from my parents. They especially my mom, absolutely loved watching, the B horror sci-fi, that type of thing. So I got to start with the Blob, Steve McQueen. I mean, it's absolute classic. It's goofy. It's obviously very horrible, graphics wise, trying to look back at it now, but it's a fun movie, and it's like, to me, like pinnacle 1950s. So if you love like the 50s and any kind of horror, just look no further than the Blob. But then I'm going to go down a completely different road here and go to jump to the 70s. And another one I distinctly recall watching with my parents when I was younger was Night of the Lepus. And that's the one about the giant bunny rabbits that would kill people. But the cool thing about that, and this is what I loved about, Brooks mentioning like Daniel Stern, John Goodman, is that you have Bones from Star Trek in that one, and Janet Leigh, the original girl from Psycho, she's in that one too, which is crazy to think about how you go from Hitchcock to giant bunny rabbits. So but that's one of those goofy, to me, another top of the line B horror that fond memories of watching when I was younger. Obviously not a fantastic movie, but just one of those that kind of stuck with me. So
going back to the Blob, I'm 15 minutes give or take from Phoenixville, the Colonial Theater where they filmed the Blob attacking the theater, and they still do the Blob Run or whatever it's called. But the theme song of that too is that awesome rockabilly, surf, beware of the blob, beware of the blob, it creeps.
Yes, yes.
They said they did that because they wanted it something to be a little less scary for the beginning of the thing. It was just great.
Yeah, and I forgot you were. That's right. It's one of those things I always forget that where that's filmed at, and it's you're right. It's right there, Phoenixville. That's right.
The trailer that was the diner they were in used to be around too. I think it burned down. I don't know if it still exists or not, but the theater's still there.
No, it's I don't know, just an absolute classic. And yeah, I mean Steve McQueen, it's really can't go wrong there. So Rich, what about any some others from you, man?
Yeah, the first two that come, well, the first one that comes to, okay. Let's go with Return of the Living Dead. The quote unquote sequel to Night of the Living Dead, even though it has nothing to do with it. It was a punk movie, I guess you'd call it, because they had the punk characters there. But it was, just a not pure comedy, but a comedy horror along the lines of the Evil Dead movies, where the punk kid gets a job at a medical supply thing, and they accidentally unleash one of the zombies from the Night of the Living Dead, and by cutting up the body and burning it, it infests a graveyard and brings back all the dead in the neighborhood. Tarman's the zombie, very famous zombie thing. Leanna Quigley, a scream queen, has a fantastic nude dance scene in the graveyard before she gets turned into a zombie. You've got some wonderful the send more paramedics, the zombie calling in the paramedic thing to send more people so they can eat their brains. A lot of the tropes that you think from zombie movies actually come from that too, I would think. Even more so than the Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead movies. But it's just always a great watch. It's just fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're just like really truly classic, B horror. It's yeah, no, I agree, man. They're fun ones too. They really are. Yeah, I can, man, it's been a long time since I've seen too.
And somebody else mentioned it in the chat. I forget it may have been Brooks, so forgive me, but I'm going to bring it up now anyway, because somebody mentioned a classic line earlier that you hear. But when I think of a classic line from a horror movie, all I can think of is the Dean from Animals. The Dean from Animal House going, "Killer clowns from outer space." Holy shit. That is one of the best B horror movies you could do. The Kyoto brothers did a lot of special effects, but they also did the Critters and the Critters movies. They did the clowns from Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and that it opens up almost exactly like the Blob, going back to the Blob, where there's something falling across the sky over there. I wonder what it is. Oh, it's a circus tent. And then we get just like the trailer says, or the title says, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And again, it's infinitely watchable every Halloween. Colorful, cotton candy coons. It's just great little, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad you said those real quick. Bink wanted to join us, but he couldn't tonight, and it was a couple that he texted me and said, definitely Critters is at the top for him, and also Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So I'll throw a couple mentions out for him, and he's got a couple more that I'll get into. I don't want to, spoil if anyone else has them, but
Critters is just one of them. I guess you consider that a B sci-fi movie.
Again, it's like it's funny. You could kind of cross genre, and I think we're going to get into the horror adjacent, if you will. I don't know if a better way to put it, but
yeah. All right, so I'm going to go with one that I actually watched in preparation for this while I was getting paid. I watched two movies at work the other day. One of them being Sky Sharks, which is about zombie Nazis on flying sharks. They're genetically engineered sharks so they can live in the air, and they can fly. They have like cybernetic attachments so they can fly. And so this company was trying to make super soldiers during World War II, and they found that the serum that they made would enhance the lifespan of men, but for some reason it turned women into zombies. So women immediately would start turning into zombies. The men would turn into zombies when they died. So, it was kind of a 50-50 thing for them. They figured it was okay. It was back in the 40s. They didn't care. Everything was all right then. But the the main zombie is this like big boob Nazi zombie chick, and she gets her Sky Shark Brigade to fly in and attack an airliner, and like every single person on the airliner gets destroyed in hilarious fashion. There's a priest on there and everything, and a nun, and it's hilarious. Like the priest is like a former gangbanger, and then he's repented and he's good now, and then all of a sudden the zombie Nazis come on and he starts cursing up a storm, and it's hilarious. There's a lot more boobs in it than I would have thought there would be. Not just zombie boobs either, like there were like real boobs. But it was just, I wouldn't say I recommend it, but if you're, you want to laugh a little bit and punish yourself at the same time, you can go ahead and watch Sky Sharks.
Yeah, I've got that on Blu-ray thanks to you. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, I need to sit down one day and, it's.
What is it, a gift or is it a time bomb?
I haven't opened it yet, so.
Yeah, could go either way.
And
then the other one I watched was Velocipaster, which it's as great as it sounds. It's a pastor at a church that can turn into a velociraptor, and I mean, I don't know what else more I need to say other than that.
Clever father.
Forgive me, Father, for I have. I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck I was trying to do there. I was trying to roar, but it sucked. The title of this is Bob Can't Do Dinosaur Noises.
Bob can't do the Velocipaster impression?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it ends with Chris Pratt coming in to wrangle them together and save the day.
Yeah, he puts his hand on their face and they easy Blue, click, 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 click.
You're my boy, Blue.
You're my boy, Blue. Speaking of horror, no, I was kidding. All right, Brooks, I think we're back to you, man.
Yeah, so we're talking about Blue, right? B-horror movies. Actually, I have Hobo with a Shotgun on my list too.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's pretty bad. So one of the ones that's sci-fi adjacent, and I actually mentioned it before, but I went back and rewatched it to prepare for this, was The Lawnmower Man with I don't remember who the main actor was, but Pierce Brosnan plays like a doctor that's running like an experiment to make a super soldier. Who would have thought?
It's Jeff Fahey, isn't it? I think that's who
it might be. It might be. And basically, they were making super soldiers out of monkeys, and then the monkey escaped, and they had to put it down or kill it or something. And so, but in their process of it escaping and them hunting it down, it actually shacked up with this like half-witted, landscape guy that just does everybody's lawn, right? And he's obviously has like a mental disability, and but the doctor that's in charge of the program's like, hey, I can make him smarter, like with the serum that we used to make the monkey smarter. I can use it on dim-witted human beings, right? Make them into super soldiers and give them purpose. And basically, it goes like, it's actually pretty interesting because he not just becomes intelligent, he becomes basically a digital super intelligence because he locks himself into a virtual reality system that they use to train the super soldiers and whatnot. And he begins to actually take over all of the computer systems, like via, his virtual reality system. And I just remember at one point where he just proclaims to, Pierce Brosnan, his Dr. Creator, he says, "I'm done with you. I'm a god now." And he basically, was becoming a self-aware, half-witted AI super being. So that was definitely an interesting movie for sure. And I think it pretty solidly hits the horror portion for all the terrible things that happen, and the sci-fi part of the overlap there.
Yeah, it's a Stephen King short story. So I mean,
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Stephen King. He sued to get his name off of that.
I thought it was a Stephen King thing.
He just used the title. It's a title to a Stephen King short story, but it has nothing to do with the actual story.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You're right. Yep, that's right.
I believe Rich.
Yeah, no, Rich is definitely right on that. Yeah,
It was a good Sega CD game because it used the same bad CGI to do the whole cyberspace thing.
Awesome.
And, yeah, it ends with.
Now you're right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
He wins at the end because every phone in the world rings at the same time. That's how that movie
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. They were talking about you will know my signal will be if I have attained godhood, and then at the end of the movie every phone on the planet rings simultaneously, so he's in everything now. But
no, and I'll quickly state on real quick for Brooks before you go on that was the film was originally titled Stephen King's Lawnmower Man. This is where the lawsuit came from. King won the lawsuit to have his name removed from the film because it bore no meaningful resemblance to his story that he wrote back in the 1970s. So, or was it the 70s? Yeah, 1975. So yeah, there you go. No.
Now I got to read the book or the short story and see what that was about.
It wasn't good. I've read it. Okay. Nah, it was one of the. He was definitely coked up when he did that one. We're drunk.
The other one that I mentioned to Tom when he brought this up was The Wraith. I couldn't remember the name at the time, and I had to IMDb it. But The Wraith. So this is a movie about basically it's a town in, I want to say New Mexico, I think, maybe Arizona, and small town, all American town. But there's this real nasty car gang where they're a bunch of motorheads that race cars and have motorcycles and all that stuff. But they're really mean. They beat people up. They're akin to a nasty motorcycle gang. But in the beginning of the movie, it kind of starts out with them, racing someone for their car, right? And that's what they did. But rather than, if they thought they were going to lose, they wouldn't lose fair and square. They would, run the guy off the road or whatever they had to do to win to get his car. And I won't ruin the whole story, but essentially they had killed someone because the ringleader of the gang liked the guy's girlfriend or something, so they killed the dude. And then mysteriously this mysterious stranger shows up and starts racing all of the gang in his souped up Dodge one of a kind, I don't know, I think it was called the Interceptor or something, right? But it's they don't know who's driving it. He's always wearing a helmet, and they don't know who it is. And then when the cops find the bodies, the eyes are sucked out of the skulls, and even if the car's completely mangled, destroyed, and burned, the body's perfect except for the eyes being sucked out of the skulls. And so it's pretty. It gets a little creepy, but Charlie Sheen is actually the main character in it. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, that's Charlie Sheen. It had to be one of his first ones as well. But yeah, and Randy Quaid is in it too. He plays the cop, and he kind of is a little bit I want to know what the hell's going on at first, and then he's like, hey, this is beyond us. We got to let the chips fall where they may, and I think this is supernatural, and I'm not going to get involved. I'm just going to let this play out because he's killing all the bad guys, so I don't care.
Do you know the town in that movie, right? The town name in that movie.
Yeah, it's Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 1986, and I've not seen that one. I got to check that one out.
It's fun. It was good. It was good.
I'm going to throw a couple. I'll stay one in the 70s, and I'm going to stay on my Star Trek thing too. Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
So it's a and I think it's kind of funny because I guess like the Star Trek folks after the series ended like to dabble in B horror, because Bones and Night of the Lepus, and then you've got Captain Kirk and Kingdom of the Spiders, which is basically tarantulas devastating a town in Arizona, and it's it's campy, it's not great, but it's always funny to see Shatner just kind of be Shatner, especially in a movie where tarantulas are just taking over. So it's a good one. But I don't know if you guys recall watching the original run of MacGyver, there's an episode that involves fire ants taking over, and that episode I believe is kind of derivative of Kingdom of the Spiders in that same regard. So anyhow, the other one I was going to say though, actually I'll say two more here real quick. I'll say The Car, 1977, James Brolin. It has that badass 1971 Lincoln Continental Mark III. It's modified, but just a sweet car, and it's just, I don't know, it's just cool. I mean, I don't know. I've used the car in so many different things as like wallpapers or just different things over the years, just because I think it's such a cool thing. And I've seen the movie several times over the years, and it's just, I don't know. It's, again, probably, not for everybody, not great, but definitely kind of creepy and definitely kind of cool. But the last one I'll mention here, and it's kind of funny, Brooks, that you mentioned The Wraith with Charlie Sheen. Came out in 1986. And there was another one that came out in 1986 that happened to coincidentally be my favorite Stephen King movie of all time, that came out and starred Emilio Estevez. It was Maximum Overdrive.
I was going to bring that one up too. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's got the Joker truck. It is a masterclass of B-horror movie. The machines come to life. It's got one of my favorite lines of a B-horror movie, where at the very beginning you have Stephen King at an ATM, and it's like, "Hey, honey, this machine called me an asshole." And but it's so good, and it is kind of creepy though, because if you think about it, where we're at now in society, everything is kind of automated. So this one shows lawnmowers running over people, and soda machines shooting cans and killing people, and the drawbridge at the beginning going wacky. It's so good. And you also, what's he going, Rich?
You're going to say you never said the plot, but it was like technology fighting against man kind of a thing, or machines revolting against man.
Yeah, it's just a good one. It was a short story. I think he penned that one as Richard Bachman, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that was the only one he directed too. He directed, and he said that he forgets most of the directing or most of the movie, most of his time making the movie, because he was high on cocaine.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious, like watching that thing, that there was a lot of drugs involved.
Lisa Simpson, and I want to say Hank Azaria is in it too. Yeah.
He is in, isn't he? Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, Lisa Simpson's in it, and it's cool. And no, Hank Azaria did the was he in that?
I could be wrong.
I don't know. I know Lisa Simpson was in it. I know in the Simpsons episode that he was, obviously, because there was an episode called Maximum Homer Drive. No, obviously Hank Azaria's in that one, but I don't know. I know Lisa Simpson, and maybe he has a bit role. I don't know. But no, it's a great one. And of course, you've got Charlie Sheen's brother, in it. So Emilio. But no, I just that one was one of my mom's favorites, and it's one of the few movies that I've held on to DVD wise, and I've actually purchased digitally just because I like to watch it every once in a while. So. But all right, Rich, let's swing that back to you, man.
Well, I got two. I got one that's going to be a very brief mention, and then one that's going to be a longer thing. But there was a movie that I saw first on regular television, And it had a kill that just kind of stuck with me. It's not a great movie, but it's definitely a B movie. And it's called Deadly Friend. And it stars Kirsty Swanson, the girl that played Supergirl, where the kid's got a little robot buddy. And Anne Ramsey, the old woman who was in everything, destroys his little robot buddy. And at the same time, his friend Kirsty Swanson is dying of something, but he winds up putting the robot brain in the Kirsty Swanson's body, and she goes on a killing spree, and she takes a basketball and smashes Anne Ramsey's head with the basketball. Anne Ramsey was the Goonies lady, the old lady from Rudy's, by the way. There you go. Yes,
that's right. Okay.
Ma Fratelli.
Yeah. But the one I believe that's just kind of stuck in my head is a B movie. But the one I wanted to talk about, and we're going to give special shout outs to Troma. Troma being the independent film studio, the only independent film studio in New Jersey. And they gave rise to the only superhero from New Jersey, which is the Toxic Avenger. He's had to date five movies with a reboot coming out hopefully next month after being shelved for like a year. But the original Toxic Crusader, written by Lloyd Kaufman, is just a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece in crappy acting and horrible special effects and what you can do with no budget, a dream, and boobs. And all of Troma's movies are. You have little nerdy Melvin who works at a health club because it's the 80s. And he's the mop boy. He's the janitor at the health club. And we got the girl who he's in love with is, of course, evil and in love with evil guys who like to drive around at night and hit random people for points, which gives you the famous running over the head of the kid where like they swap to a melon and you can definitely tell that they're running over a melon. And she decides she's going to trick him into meeting him later at the pool, but he's got to wear a tutu. So he comes in there and she's wearing the tutu and it's dark and he starts kissing her and they turn the lights and he's kissing a sheep and everyone's around laughing at him. So he runs around screaming, falls out the window of the health center and into a bucket of industrial waste. Because the guys driving the truck with the industrial waste are high on cocaine and had to stop to do more cocaine. And he turns into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength, the Toxic Avenger, who can tell when people are evil. And this being Troma, you have just a wonderful gang of evil characters. The mayor's corrupt. He's got this guy called Beardface, who is a very corrupt underling. And just a Toxic Crusader making his way through life, living in the junkyard, falling in love with a blind woman. His mom comes out to live with him for a while, and he's just fighting crime, and everyone loves the monster hero. And this isn't Troma's first film. They started out with just basic sexploitation movies, but it's definitely their best known. And it leads to other things. The other three suck. 4 isn't bad. That's Citizen Toxic. But it goes from the Toxic Crusader or Toxic Avenger to Toxic Avenger 2, where he's in Tokyo. Toxic Avenger 3, which I totally forget, but I know I've seen several times, but that's telling you how bad it is. 4, he's got a sidekick, which is the big fat guy who's in all the Troma movies. And he's got the Nega Toxie because there's an alternate dimension thing where, there's the mirror thing. And the new one that's getting ready to come out features Peter Dinklage as the monster, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, when does that come out? Do you know, Rich?
It's going to be August, sometime in August. The next month.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for some reason it had Eggball is not a Troma movie, so that could be why they just released their own stuff. This one, I don't know who's doing it, but they couldn't get it released for whatever reason, so it had to sit on the shelf for a while, which has me a little concerned, but like I said, I watched 3, even though I've owned Toxic Avenger 1, 2, and 3 on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. So I will watch this no matter how bad it is. But Troma has also given us such movies as Surf Nazis Must Die, where a black mama avenges her son who gets killed by surf Nazis. Bloodsucking Freaks. There really isn't much to Bloodsucking Freaks. Romeo and Juliet, which is Romeo and Juliet with the Troma flair, which was written by James Gunn. James Gunn got his start in Troma movies. So did a pile of other people. Vincent D'Onofrio, too, was one of their early sexploitation things. But there's these studios, Troma being the best one, that just do B movies. So I also want to give a shout out to Full Moon Studios, who are the people that make the Puppet Master movies, Puppet Master, Satanic Dolls, and Ginger Dead Men. When Bob was mentioning one of those things earlier, that the Ginger Dead Man is just a gingerbread man, but it's Gary Busey doing the voice of it with his face on a really bad gingerbread man body. Oh, an Evil Bong.
I remember that one.
Evil Bong with Tommy Chong as the voice of the Bong. Yeah.
Dude, I remember I had completely forgotten that I'd seen Ginger Dead Man and the Evil Bong. So I'm glad you brought them up. But they definitely too.
The Puppet Masters were good, though. At least the first one. That involves Nazi puppets, which is always good. Killing people.
I can remember, sitting there again. Tox Avenger was another one of those. We're sitting, down in the living room with my parents at the log cabin. That one, and the ones I've mentioned already. That's another one that, I remember distinctly, and it was so terrible, but it was so good. It's that weird, like, perfect B balance, right?
He fries one of the guy's heads in a fry cooker and then makes another one into a milkshake. He crushes somebody's head in the weight machine, like he lifts up the weights and drops them on the head, crushing the head. And because it's Troma, you get to see the head being crushed, but it's not scary because it's just a horrible, regular effect. Yeah, it's just.
Cool effects are the best.
You know what was interesting? I rewatched Gremlins with my son, and I didn't realize how violent that movie
Gremlins
was.
are scary. Yeah.
Despite it being a PG movie, right? I was like, oh, it's PG. Yeah, we can watch it, right? But there are some parts in that that are really gory and disturbing. Like the lady throws one in a blender, a microwave. Like there's just awful stuff that happens. And then I looked up afterwards. I'm like, why is this a PG movie? And then they actually had to reevaluate the entire standard of grading after Gremlins. Because it was a PG movie, they had to go back to the drawing board and say, what are we doing?
Gremlins and Indiana Jones, I think. Raiders of the Lost Ark was.
Yeah, it might have been Raiders of the Lost Ark as well. Yeah, that was one of the triggers for the.
Yeah, that fits the same times. It was the mid '80s. So
Gremlins 1, they were a really good movie, but Gremlins 2 is the one where they just said, "Well, let's fuck all this and be funny." Like we're a Warner.
Yeah. Hey, another honorable mention that I think Bink would appreciate too is Tremors. That one I watched Tremors 1 so many times with my dad. And then I think I've watched Tremors 2 a couple times, but I remember Tremors 1 distinctly.
Yeah, it's that's one that gosh, it's such a good movie. Like it's just, quotable. And of course, they made so many movies beyond that.
Yeah.
And I think Bert was the only one that stayed on the whole time. But Bobby, what you got, man?
So an honorable mention or dishonorable mention, I guess. We'll throw Snakes on a Plane in there. It was one that I followed. Like as soon as I heard there was a movie called Snakes on a Plane, that was that's what the script was called. I was like, dude, all right, I got to follow this one and see where this goes. Because that was when I was big into JoeBlow.com, and I was really following movies, and then I found out that Samuel L. Jackson was involved, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. Yeah. It wasn't great. It had a catchy theme song, but it was. I mean, it was okay for what it was. But that one, the name says it all. There was another one called Psycho Gorman, which is a more recent movie, which is like an alien warlord gets trapped on Earth, and this little girl and her little boyfriend find the stone that controls him, and so he desperately wants to kill them, but he can't because they control him. And so they basically like sick him on people like he's their attack dog, and an outstanding. One
What was that called, Bobby?
that's called Psycho Gorman.
Got it.
And then there was one more that Black Sheep, which not
I was like,
not the black sheep you're thinking of,
Wait a minute.
but this is about this company, for whatever reason, is experimenting on sheep and making Ewan very upset. And they basically make zombie sheep. And then if you get bit by one of these zombie sheep, you start turning into a sheep. And by the end, there's just this villain that's like this gigantic like sheep man thing that again looks probably like what. Never mind, I'm gonna be nice. But it's like a sheep human hybrid, so you can see where I was going with that. But it's freaking hilarious, and it's gory as hell, and it's definitely worth a watch, and I definitely own it on Blu-ray.
I love that because of course you do. I don't have a whole lot more to go off, but one that we haven't talked about, and again, this is going to cross that basically 50-50 line of horror and sci-fi, the absolute classic, They Live, Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah.
It's just such a, I don't know, I love that movie so much, and that was one of those movies I saw the first time. And I was like, and then, I rewatched it a couple of years later and rewatched it again. And man, it's like a fine wine, that one. It's not that like goofy stuff with it. It does, don't get me wrong. And it's got everything, 1980s. I mean, it's all that, but it's just a good movie. Really is, and I think as far as like the sci-fi horror split with it, whatever, I don't think that we could do it justice talking a B horror podcast without talking about They Live, and that's just one of my favorites. I love that movie so much, and I think I had a couple little notes here about that one. Just obviously,
This is the one where like if you like look at them under a certain way, you can actually see the
sunglasses.
Yeah, Piper's got the sunglasses. So he
yeah.
kind of sees like the hidden truth of the world, and like the ruling class, or like the ruling class are like aliens.
And he sees them on like as newscasters and anchors and everything.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting because like he sees the media as like with subliminal messages to the humans because they're aliens. They're trying to command the human population to like obey and whatever. So it's consume. Yeah, and it's really interesting though. There's a lot of like interesting messaging that's kind of going on in that movie at the same time, other than it just being like a crazy, sci-fi horror type thing. But I don't know. And that's a John Carpenter, right? I mean, it's a Carpenter movie.
It was a John Carpenter. I was going to say that, yes. And you forgot to say, not only is it Roddy Piper, but it's Keith David as the other main guy.
Yes. Yeah, Keith David's awesome in that too. Yep. No.
And that, and talk about quotable movies. Like without that, we wouldn't have got video game.
I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
Duke Nukem. Yeah, that's where the Duke Nukem line came from. Yep.
He's putting it in the you're real ugly. You're all right. It's just line after quotable line in that.
Oh, it's so good.
Like he's trying, for whatever reason, Keith David wouldn't put on the glasses, so they have this fight that was choreographed by Roddy Piper and Keith David. That's just epic. It's the only way to describe it. It's just
I need to rewatch that. I kind of wish I did rewatch it again recently before we recorded this. That should have been my homework, but unfortunately didn't. But another one, I'm gonna go. We'll go ahead, Rich.
I was gonna say that brings up John Carpenter, and you can't like talk about B movies without mentioning like his whole genre. Oeuvre is the word I think I'm looking for, because that wasn't his first one, but he did all those movies with the great Kurt Russell. Like every movie he did, Big Trouble in Little China,
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York, Escape from LA.
Yep.
Yeah, they're just all fantastic.
Yeah, and I know you went
John Carpenter did Halloween.
I know we went like Troma, Carpenter. I think we have to mention Roger Corman as well in this. Piranha, Death Race 2000. You know, there's some things. Of course, we're kind of skirting around a little bit. I'm not saying that straight
Fantastic
horror, but
so far the best Fantastic Four movie, by the way.
but yeah, I mean, again, you're talking horror adjacent, whatever. Those guys, Carpenter, Troma, Roger Corman. You have some just classic.
I don't know if I don't think Universal horror movies count as B movies, because I think their monster movies have. But I almost want to consider the Hammer horror movies, the British equivalents, to be B movies. They're the ones where you get Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing as like Dracula and Frankenstein and Van Helsing and the Mummy, and they're definitely more of a B flavor to them. They were more like the 60s, 70s, and just a little cheaper. But Christopher Lee is a fantastic actor, though. Going back to he was in Gremlins too, and it was just he played the mad scientist in the lab.
Well, we can't. I mean, at least as far as I'm concerned, we can't knock this list off without mentioning two movies. One of them being Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Which, have you guys seen that one?
Yeah, yes. That's a +1 for me on that.
Yeah. So Brooks, it's basically these two rednecks are out in the woods doing their thing, and these rich yuppie kids come out to the forest, and they want to stay in the cabin, but they run into these two rednecks that they think are trying to kill them, and it's like pratfall after pratfall that happens, and they end up accidentally, like the frat kids or whatever, end up killing themselves, or different things befall them, and they blame it on the rednecks, and the rednecks are out to kill them.
The rednecks, isn't it? It's
Steve the Pirate.
Yeah, it's Alan Tudyk and is it Tyler Bane or Tyler Labine? Tyler Labine.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great movie. That's one of those movies that I was a little like, I don't know, we'll watch it. But yeah, Brooks, if you have not seen that one, you've got that's actually one that is worth. It's a good movie. I mean, it
plays on the tropes of the.
I'll check it out.
And then Shaun of the Dead.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. How the hell we not get? God, we've been recording for like an hour. We not get the Shaun of the Dead until now. Damn.
There's so many.
There really are. I mean, like we could probably make a part 2 on this and still not hit everything, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned those two.
The Reanimator movies too, with Jeffrey Combs. Again, they were based on the Cthulhu guy whose name I can't think of because I'm drunk. Who did the Cthulhu movies? Lovecraft.
Cthulhu?
Lovecraft stuff.
H.P. Lovecraft, yeah.
Where he's just a mad scientist that brings people back from the dead with his serum, and he tests it out on his dead cat and his best friend's girlfriend.
I've got a couple others from Bink that he texted me, and he said Hellbound, Chuck Norris, 94, and Saturday the 14th.
Okay, Saturday the 14th is good. There's some more modern ones. There's anybody ever see Drive Angry with Nicolas Cage? He plays a guy who escapes from hell to save his daughter from a satanic cult, and the daughter's played by the super hot woman who was in that whole court thing with Johnny Depp. Amber Heard.
Oh, Amber Heard. Yep.
Yeah. Really good. That was really good. It was definitely a B movie. Yeah.
Amber Turd,
It's just
right?
super nuts, crazy. Johnny, not Johnny Depp. Nicolas Cage. And then getting away from the horror movies a little bit, we got. Was just sitting here thinking of B movies and just Flash Gordon with the Queen soundtrack and everything. Just kind of that's a B movie. The acting.
I think that's Rich. I think it's a good little tease. Actually, I think we've kind of done B horror. Really, we kind of stayed on topic. Wow, which is unusual for us.
Yeah.
I think we can just kind of expand it out and do B movies at some point. And because I know you're a huge Flash Gordon fan. We could probably just do a whole episode on Flash Gordon, but that'd be pretty much all you.
You can do a whole episode on sci-fi. It doesn't have to be horror. It could just be.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many. That's
many.
That's a great thing that my sci-fi stuff, unfortunately, probably would stop sometime in the late '90s.
Yeah, me too.
But now I think we're on to something with doing stuff like that. But I know we're getting toward the end of time here. I know it's late. Is there any other B horror stuff that anyone wants to just throw out?
I got a couple honorable mentions that I had on my list, but I didn't really talk about. But then Rich brought up H.P. Lovecraft, which I love all the Lovecraftian style movies. And I talked about this one, I think, a little bit before. In the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill and Jürgen Prochnow. I don't know how to say his last name. The dude that's in Das Boat.
I think it's a Carpenter.
Yeah, and that was a
Carpenter
movie. Yeah. And then the other Carpenter movie that I wanted to mention was from 1980, and it was The Fog. So it's about these dead pirates that basically come in, ghost pirates come in with the fog in a fishing town and terrorize and kill people. I thought that one was really good. And one last one for me. I think, Tom, you and I actually, this is from the mid 2000s. I think you and I double dated to this movie back in the day. The Descent.
We did.
Yeah. So that one, I even though that was a little bit more modern, you could there weren't a lot of big names in it. It was it was done very well, but I think it kind of had a very B movie budget.
Yeah, no, we did because we sat it was busy. We sat right at the front on watching that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Now the only other one
I never wanted to go into a cave after that movie.
Now the only other one I had to mention was Rubber. If anyone's ever seen Rubber, it's about a killer tire, but the entire movie. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say, which one are you talking about? Because there's that one, and there's the one about the killer condom.
That's a Truman movie.